Good morning to you all. This is Thursday morning, the 6th, I think. I don't know. What world is this? I'm not sure where I was last night. Holy moly. Oh, did you hear the latest research? The latest research shows B12 is a hype. Shows you that B12 doesn't affect energetics at all, that this is all crap. And of course it is, because when you're looking at chronic fatigue or anything like that, even if your B12s are low, where are you going to go when your B12s are low or you have chronic fatigue? Where's the first place you're going to think about? Adrenal glands. Of course. You know, this is how, there's so many in metabolism and the whole process of ionization, oxidation, and all the other little interactions. You've got all kinds of chemistry interactions. Okay. And B12 is on that realm, like crib cycles, all around the Rosion crib cycles. That's CoQ10, way down on that cycle. So here we pull it out and give it to you as an antioxidant when fruits and berries are the king of antioxidants. You know, it's just ways to make money and people to spend money, I guess, Anyway, I want to go over some of these questions because I was just glancing at some of them, and boy, you guys are sending some good stuff here. And what I was thinking about, I was doing some meditation this morning, and I was thinking, you Facebook guys ought to send me some cases over the YouTube and make them, some of your cases you're working on or that you have to work on, and just lay it out. Get all the symptoms that individual has. You don't go into deep history because it doesn't really matter. It's this what they're dealing with. And then let's go over them, show you how to relate where it's coming from, how you deal with that, and everything else. But I think most of you are getting the simplicity of it all. Frightening. I mean, it's frightening simple. But you know what? When you take a look around and you get older, you realize that truth is in the simplistic, not into the intellectual. And then you start looking at the mind and its real role in life and here in creation, and start looking at religions and what the spiritual giants have to say about the mind versus consciousness and stuff like that. And you'll start putting it together for yourself, But if anything, let me help put that together for you. Anyway, I want to go down and read a bunch of these because you guys are sending me some good stuff. And again, I deeply apologize if I'm not reading yours, I can't get to them because I have a stack here that's fairly large. And you can see it just takes so long to go over a case, so I apologize here. But I'm doing the best I can. And if I just don't get you and you keep having a question, then send it directly to Gen B or re-up again. I'm trying to capture all the new ones, and because I'm hoping some of you will re-up when you ask a question. And so please don't get frustrated if you can. All right, this one is from X. And I thought this was pretty good. I read this one yesterday, Most of the time I read them right out or I pick them up because I just don't have the time to sit and pre-read them. And we were talking yesterday. I just happened to pick this one up off the press. And I thought this was interesting. This is a relatively new visitor to our site. I will have to keep my anonymity, so just call me Mr. X. I am a top-level bodybuilder and compete in the Mr. Olympia contest. As you might be aware, in our sport, anaerobic steroids, human growth hormones, and insulin are widely abused to build extreme amounts of muscle, combined with high-protein diets. This is what it takes to me to win and to be good at my job. Yeah, when I was like 19, I got into the Wielder program and, started working out, pumping the iron, pumping the protein powders, pumping the proteins, It didn't take long for me to feel real bad. But, you felt stronger and stuff. I have been blessed with very good genetics, thank the friggin' God, and my body is dealing with all this stress fine so far. My question is what should I do if I decide to have children? Well, probably in your case, the sooner the better, to be honest with you. Because And no offense to anybody out there, because, you know, I've been into bodybuilding. My stepson is into bodybuilding. You know, it's just part of the issue. There's so many people around here into bodybuilding, and we have a bodybuilding place across the street, I might say. I guess it's a gym, but it's unique in that we have tractor tires and we're using sledgehammers, and, you know, it's really getting into the farm work type stuff and really building people up. It's an interesting, unique place there. I want to say this to you. I probably would be doing green drinks, and I probably would be doing a salad with my high protein meals. Get away from protein starch combination, dump the starches, stay with the proteins and the greens. At least you're going to have some buffering, because it's where you're going. The importance of having good genes in a situation like this can't even be understated, because this is classic kidney destruction. Rheumatoid arthritis, you know, is the big one with bodybuilders. Of course, I've got many that come in here. One guy made a lot of the magazines. I think he's got a 28-inch arms. Huge, just huge guy. Big chest, who did have, until everything went on him. Then he came in here, and it's sad stuff. But I want to also, point yourself to this guy. I don't know him personally, but his book with David Wolf was pretty good. And he wrote this book called Raw Power. It's out of print now, I believe, but this is Stephen Arlen. I don't know if this is out of sync, but he's either an ex-football player, bodybuilder, I can't remember what all he is, but he shows you how to build and keep muscle on with the fruits and the berries, but more probably vegetables and, you know, avocados and things like this, where you have superior amino acids. And if you can move your body and keep it fairly good like that, but move it to more of an amino acid hit as opposed to a protein hit, I think you'll be better, especially with their attached to a whole panel of chemistry, which would be eating the whole food or juicing the greens. So I would do that to buffer what's happening to you, because a lot of times, and people say this all the time, but outside isn't always what's going on the inside. Sometimes people look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside, destruction is at hand. I see a lot of beautiful people walking around. I catch a limp here, I catch this there. You know, you can see that there's suffering going on in every level. So I would say, X, try to move yourself in slowly into a more raw type of scenario, and maybe move over to the hemp powders, chia seed powders, things like that. So as you're moving, get away from dairy protein type thinking and get into more like the hemp or the chia seed, or both actually. The God's Blend we have here, major amino acids, so major for pumping up. And I would do that. I would get away from the protein powders if I could and pump superfood blends. Because if you can make that transition and keep the size of your muscles or the look that you have, I think that would be pretty cool. But you're going to have to transition slowly a little bit. But at least try to move it as fast as you can, because it's just this level, even with good genes, can't support it long. Because as your kidneys go down with the high proteins, your adrenals are going to go with them. And in time then, you'll start seeing cholesterol problems and stuff with this level of acidosis. And that can take you out too. So I know this is your job and everything, so try to keep that body looking good, but at the same time, try to interject more plant-based proteins, or amino acids more aptly put, and like the superfood blend here, pump it and use that up there. You can, and these are going to be far superior muscles, by the way. They'll be stronger. You'll be stronger and more flexible, and you won't feel stiff and tight. So it's good stuff, you know. But if you can find or talk to Steve Arlen, and he might have a new book in print, check that out. X and see how you do. But I would say if you're going to have children, have them sooner than later, because the path you're going, not be, insulting or anything, but the path you're going is very destructive to the human body. I mean, some of you guys look real good, but, it gets you. So you want to have children earlier before you lose your body too much. But if you can move this and move yourself into high green juices and superfood blends and stuff like this, and still stay bulked, you're going to do good. You'll be able, especially if you have good genes, and you can turn this before you destroy the genes too much, or the cells with the proteins. You'll be doing good. So it might be something you want to move over, get rid of the grains. I mean, you don't want them anyway, and they don't mix with proteins anyway. So you want to move away from the grain side of that and pop in just the protein. And I would move away from animal protein and go into, like I say, the chia and the even though it's a grain type thing, and the hemp powders. All right, this is yo, Dr. Morse. How do you feel about cooking food in microwaves? This is the one I was talking about yesterday. Not much, my friend. Scott, this is, like I say, this was Stanford, I think it was, University. They did the largest microwave study ever. Anyway, this was in the early 60s, and I mean, it was a bad study for the microwave industry. And I remember for that year, there was a lot of turmoil after this study was done, because basically it showed you that you never want to use microwaves. So if you want to use a microwave, I would say use it to heat up water, period. And then you have the problem of bonding minerals. So you really want to use it for distilled or RO water maybe, but that'd be about all. Because at these radiation has a tendency at some of these levels to destroy. And remember, we're talking about this hair curler that uses the infrared rays, and it was saying how it dries from the inside out. Got to be real careful with that type of thinking. We're already dehydrated from the inside out, so further dehydration will end to nothing but cell destruction. So you have to be real cautious and think things out. Or I don't want to use the word think things out, because you can't think things out, but you can observe things out. In other words, get away from things and kind of put two and two together and look at the destructive side of radiation and the healing side of radiation. When you find the healing side of radiation, it is like the healing side of chemistry. It's complete. It comes as sun rays, or it comes as rays of magnetic energy emanating from life itself, What's the difference in stovetop and microwave cooking? Well, again, microwave, pretty much destroys the DNA and the chromosomes of the cell. And I can't remember what all they found, but it like radically mutates the chemistry, and it's quite interesting. Oftentimes I see people heating water in microwaves and drinking their tea with it. Very bad, right? Yeah, very bad. Unless it's totally distilled. It has nothing in it, because if it was a good mineral water, you're gonna bond these metals and might not quite like them, and then you're creating more free radicals, and probably in all reality making the water even more acidic. So you have to be careful with those things. There's no reason to have a microwave oven. Mike, this is from Mike. Hey, Dr. M, hope you're doing well. Pretty much. Working on it. I was wondering if there would be a downside to using two glandulars at the same time. Absolutely not. We all do. Matter of fact, I've had people on as many as 3 or 4. A lot of times you'll have someone that has the GI tract deterioration, the chronic bowels, and of course that gives them the pituitary. But oftentimes it gives them the pineal as well. So generally we have them on a pineal formula to sleep. Those are the people with the insomnias and they can't sleep and stuff like that. We got one lady, she's been put in a place trying to get out of it because she can't sleep. So they have her on all kinds of psychotropic meds and stuff, and they won't let her out. But once she gets out, I'll show her how to fix that. But I can go pineal, and I could go parathyroid, and I could go thyroid with it, or I go pituitary and parathyroid together. I always do the adrenals. So you can mix and match. I find that no big deal. Matter of fact, if you look at Standard Process and some other labs, they've got multiple glandulars in one form. Even this company has got some new formulas out that have multiple glandulars in one form. And you could, I'd like to have, and in the future might, I've been trying to hopefully, but I don't see man getting away from the level of his suffering for quite some time. Because you guys are the champions. You guys are the light givers. And you're the way showers, the path makers. And I have to tell you that all of you are very spiritual. You're way ahead of your time. That's what's drawing you to this. Because this is your time to increase your awareness, to get rid of karma or things that are binding you. And this is an opportunity for you to really grow, both in physical health, emotional health, mental health, and of course, definitely in awareness. So this is just what life is about, unless you want to get trapped in the soap operas, constant soap operas, and after a while, a soap opera is a soap opera. Just different people, different places, different things. You know, for an example, an adrenal glandular and a pituitary glandular, or an adrenal glandular and a thyroid, absolutely. Should you only use one at a time? No, not at all, Mike. And I'll tell you this, though, with the thyroids, and we mentioned this the other day, is keep it on the low side. Thyroid 150s is probably adequate enough. Thyroid is a sensitive little puppy that's getting fed by the TSH from the pituitary, and then when you're feeding it, it can really get kicked up there. So you want to be cautious, because the pituitary is just a little bitty fella. So you want to be cautious with that one and not overhit the pituitary. And you don't want to overhit the thyroid. But I'm telling you, and I've said this before, people's adrenals are so bad, you can hit that and hit that and hit that, and still sometimes it needs to be hit again. This is Jonathan. Hi, Dr. Morse. I wish you well and to beat hell. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, you're going to be here. You guys are being here with me. But can we do it? You're daggone right. We don't take no for an answer, do we? I started taking adrenal glandulars for 1 month, and I recently got a new iridology scan done. And I found that I also, believe this or not, picked this one up the other day too, and I thought this was quite interesting myself. And something new appeared that was not there before. I took the adrenal glandulars. The new picture showed extreme adrenal weakness on the right eye. It was the biggest one of the iridologists have ever seen. She was shocked. What could be going on in your opinion? Well, I'd have to see the iris pictures before and after, you know, what it looked like before and then what it looked like after to tell you. But here's the thing in the eyes that you're going to see. If you're moving your lymph adequately and you're filtering in the kidneys, you're going to see that lymph clearing from the eye. So these lacunas, these patterns that you see in the fibers, they can actually look worse because you're clearing the clouds over the landscape. You're clearing them off away from the landscape, and now you get to see the landscape for some of the first times. So a lot of times these lesions look bigger or whatever, but the glandular is not going to make a gland weaker and show itself more. That's impossible. Never. That would be unheard of. Anything, I can't even imagine how that could even exist like that. But you're also, with that glandular, picking up the activity of the gland. But I think what you're really looking at is, as you're increasing filtration, you're exposing the truth. And the cloud over the eyes a lot of times, that white or yellow or brown in some cases in blue eyes, all that lymph has got to come out. And when it does, it shows underneath. Start looking at that lacuna as you go along here. You don't want to do any too quick. Give yourself about every 6 months. That way you're not, watch pot never boil syndrome. And just do it every 6 months. And look at these lacunas. Look at that adrenal lacuna and see how it gets smaller and smaller and smaller as you get yourself healthier. So that's the only thing I can think of that would be, unless you get me both sides and we can look and see something unusual wasn't there before. But again, as you begin to clean the lymphatic system, you will expose those lacunas underneath. But those lacunas underneath need to get smaller and smaller and develop little healing lines. And healing lines is kind of like if you had a tear in your pants and you start sewing it up. And you start sewing it and sewing it up. That's what healing lines, you see them going through. I had a 95-year-old man come in here one day. He was kind of a well-to-do fella. And he told me that he was scheduled to go to dialysis the following Monday. And he didn't want to go. So I said, are you still peeing? He said, absolutely. I said, well, good. I said, you won't have to go. So I took his pictures and talked with him. He went total fruit. 95-year-old gentleman here. Total fruit. And I got his eye pictures back. We were using a lab at the time. I got eye pictures back in his right eye, which was the right kidney, was the problem. And the left kidney looked pretty good, but you could definitely see the right kidney big time. So I was telling him when I was taking the picture that what I saw. So like I said, it was about it was a few weeks when I got the pictures back. And that right eye was real blurry. You could see the kidney well, but it was real blurry. So then I called him and I said, why don't you come in? I'd like to get another picture of that right eye. So he came in 1 month and 3 days later. 1 month and 3 days later. And I took a picture of that eye and I was astonished. There was healing lines all through that kidney lesion or lacuna or crypt almost. It just... the power, and this guy had good genes, and it just showed me the power of those of you that have the good genes, what you can do when you set your mind to it. And that's just what this guy did. He never did go to dialysis, of course, and he rebuilt his kidneys, and he was great. I had a medical doctor the same way. He was bad. He probably should have went on dialysis, but he had a real bad kidney, cleaned that right up. You know, this is the things that you have to understand. And the beauty of iridology is that you can see that process going on, even as the lymph clears. If you take them too quick, you're going to have to be real fine looking, because it takes a while. You're going to be looking at a year or two, some of you heavy lymphatics or more. Someone asked me the other day about that, and I said, to be honest with you, I've never in 43 years quit thinking about my lymphatic system or detoxing. I've just never quit thinking about it, because not only is it my job, but it is what you live and do. You are always going to cycle through some degree of detoxing it off and on the rest of your life, because that's just the nature of the beast. Sometimes you pick up not good eating and you come right back and clean yourself back up. And that's just kind of what you do as you move through life here. We're on a toxic planet. All the commercials on TV sway you the other way. Everything around you, your friends, a lot of times, everything else. But I tell you what, I've been hearing a lot of stories, and you guys are really making changes out there that's unbelievable. And I'm telling you, this world is changing. It might be slow right now, but it's still changing pretty faster than it's ever changed. So you guys are doing a good job. Yeah, this is Lisa. Dr. Morse, I'm a 60-year-old female. Oh, man. I suffered a heart attack at age 22 from pericarditis. Now, that's inflammation around the heart sac. So if we say inflammation, what's your first thought? Inflammation. What's your first thought? It's got to be acidosis. Whenever someone says itis is inflammation. So I've got pericarditis, or I've got cystitis, or cholecystitis. Location, location, location. So I've got inflammation in the pericardial sac of the heart, or I've got inflammation in the bladder, or I have inflammation in the kidneys. That's not, we don't care where it's at. I mean, it's nice to know, okay, all right. But actually, it's systemic. When this lady had it in the heart, she actually had it all through her. It's just where it's the most pronounced is your weaker genetic areas, or where it is life-threatening, and in terms of heart rhythms and breathing and things like that. But that's moving toward congestive heart failure. And 22 years old, too. So I think what it says to itself is, one, that there's some genetic heart weakness. And remember, we talked about this before, that in your genetic weaknesses, you're going to see a compromised lymph drainage. And you see that eye after eye after eye after eye. And I think this is what happened to you, honey, is that you were born and you weren't moving your lymph. And this goes back to the same thing. This goes back to kidney and adrenals. Any way you tear this up and you look at this, you're going to focus right in on the eliminative organs and the diet. Two things. The diet got us, and it beat up the eliminative organs. And from those two things, you can picture everything man deals with, because we have to get out of this medical thinking that diseases is an entity of some sort that is created by God to do harm to its fellow creatures. That's insane. And it's just ridiculous thinking. So when you went back there, 22 years old, this lady wasn't filtering properly, and this is left side, left kidney. So this is something to take a look at. You know, you got to go back, honey, and fix this. You know, and this is sad that she had a MI about that. About 5 years ago, I started having tachycardia, arrhythmia constantly. See, and here's the thing. If you never removed your lymph system or got that filtering through the kidneys and got this acidosis out of the walls of the heart or out of the sac, you're just revisiting it. As a matter of fact, now it's probably suppressing nerve performance of the heart, and you're getting some tachycardia out of that. And it can come from other ways. The thyroid, of course, is a main gland you're going to think about when you think of the heart rate. So you could have a little overactive thyroid slipping down and giving you tachycardia. Now, think about this. If someone has a lot of lung congestion and they just, or they're a smoker and they're not breathing, they're not pulling in oxygen like they need to, and their lungs are full of mucus and therefore they're not oxygenating their body like they should, your thyroid is going to naturally kick up your heart rate to deal with that. Because after all, the bottom line is getting carbon and oxygen to each and every cell that you have, or so that's why sometimes you get tachycardia, because you're not oxygenating the body, or you have you took some inorganic iodine like potassium iodine or something, and now you've overstimulated the thyroid, or the iodine is lodged in the thyroid and it's hyperstimulated. Also, you could go to the pituitary and see the same thing: a hyperstimulated pituitary, increasing TSH, and then kicking up the thyroid too much. So there's multiple factors that can be responsible for this. But how do we keep that simple? Right? It could be a pituitary, it could be a thyroid, it could be the lymph in the heart, which is what it was before. So how do we address each and every one of these? The simplicity of this, guys, is that it is the lymph system in each and every case. I mean, sitting on top of genetic weaknesses, well, that's always considered, obviously. But as a rule, well, you know, you just all this sits on top of that. And if you went to the genetic weakness and you started going back to the family members you're getting these from, you're going to find the lymphatic system's involved there. You're going to find either chemistry, obviously, chemicals from injected nature, from pharmaceuticals or vaccinations, all the way to air pollutants, all the way to farm pollutants, where you're raised. All these toxins ingested then can, you know, do all kinds of things. Hyperstimulate, shut down, break down, all kinds of things there. So this is why you guys are doing the core issue that every single soul's got to do on this planet. We all on this planet, we have got to get these bodies back in shape and start a renaissance of wellness and health and vitality that will bring then the spirituality of this planet and it'll lift it up. And maybe another planet, then souls can go to another planet that want to fight and they can tear up that one. Send them to Mars where they don't tear up any plants when they're doing it. I mean, after tests, he said I had cardiomyopathy. I've watched all your videos and keep thinking you said the fruit diet and herbs can regenerate tissues in some of the videos. So anyway, about 2 months ago, I stopped taking one of my meds. Lisinopril, but that's the one, I'm familiar with that one. And then a month ago, I stopped taking the other pill, Atenolol, beta blocker. to go on a water fast, hoping to help my heart. I have been eating a fruit diet and taking your detox kit for months already. During the 5-day water fast, my heart rate jumped up and stayed up the whole time, even after I stopped the fast. I kept looking at that pill bottle and wondering if I should go back on it. I don't know what to do to slow it down, but my BP is good, averaging about 100/65. Okay, I don't have high blood pressure. The doctor gave me the pills to drop the pressure lower and to slow the heart rate, saying it would slow down the heart from enlarging. Well, listen, you've got to get in your lymph system and your kidneys and adrenals. Now, this 100/65, is that on meds? And you're on 2 meds for that? Or you came off of them? Is this 100/65 off of meds, then you know your low blood pressure. And you know that's the adrenal glands. And so that's the nervous system that feeds the heart and runs the heart. So to get this inflammation out of the heart, what do you have to do? First of all, to know that, you have to know what system that inflammation is a product of. And keep in mind that inflammation is a natural immune response. It's the acidosis that's the causative factor. So you can't address a natural immune response and not address the cause factor, because that's what medicals do. They address inflammation, which then compromises the patient, because this is a natural response to what? What's the body responding to in itself? And again, acidosis. And once you remove this acidosis, what happens to the immune response called inflammation? See ya. Exactly. And so that's the point, is that's where you keep coming around to this detoxification, because there's no other road you can walk down to get remedy to this. You take your heart out, you would like to maybe, but you've got to get that lymph moving. To get that moving, to drain that heart, to pull that pressure or suppression or hyperstimulation of the heart or of the thyroid or anywhere else that could be lending itself to this. I mean, you could not be oxygenating well from the heart, and the thyroid is picking this up a bit. And so I would definitely do deep breathing. I would definitely go on the heart formula itself. I would definitely have 2 kidney formulas, 2 lymphatic formulas. You remember, 1 capsule, 1 tincture, each one. I would definitely have stomach and bowel, because get this tachycardia, which I doubt because of all that implies, but if this is a genetic weakness, you have to go to your colon, where the heart came off in the embryonic stages, which is about mid-descending bowel, and see if you have a problem there. Because that's why I say you have to go after the colon in every case too, because that was the embryonic trunk that most of your lower tissues came out of, and there's that symbiotic relationship to that you can't deny. And so you've got to fix up the bowels. You've got to get the kidneys and adrenals up so you can filter these acids out, and all this inflammation and swelling can come out of the heart. And I would keep my exercise way down. I would keep stretching and yoga and Tai Chi. I would keep deep breathing up. Check your O2 saturation next time you go, and go in a medical doctor's office and go up to a nurse at the desk there and say, put an O2 sat on my finger. I want to see what my O2 saturation is. And see if that might be part of the problem. I'd also clean out my lungs, get my thyroid in shape, check your basal temperatures under your arms. Are you over hot? These are some of the questions you can find, but to give this Lisa remedy, you've got to get into her lymph system. Should have done it way back. So, got to get this, because this is a case where, this individual could pass from this problem. And, will fasting and a fruit diet repair my enlarged heart? Well, because it's enlarged doesn't mean it needs repaired. Enlargement is called hypertrophy, and enlargement is due to acidosis, inflammation, which is acidosis. Remove the acidosis and the hypertrophy, the enlargement goes down. The same thing's true with the prostate, the same thing's true with ovaries, the same thing's true with the lungs, the same thing's true with the spleen, see what I mean? It's head to toe, it's systemic. And fruits and water, you're on the right path on the diet. But I think you need to get into some herbs and get these kidneys accelerated and open. You're in kind of a stat need to get this handled. In other words, you should be doing this yesterday and get this out of there. Get yourself on some herbs and get this lymphatic system drained, and it'll pull all this out. Any damage to cells from the acids in the heart will come out of there. The other fear that you have here is that if your adrenals are down too low, as particularly the cortisol, then with that acidosis in the heart, here comes cholesterol or calcium out of the tissues of the heart. So the risk is plaquing of cholesterol interstitially, swelling the coronaries closed, or calcifying the coronaries. And these are all problems that exist out of acidosis. And so this is a real important case. I planned on a 10-day water fast, but on day 4 I had such bad hip and thigh pain. Well, that's where your genetics are. And here's the thing, when you go on these fasts like that, Lisa, or anyone else out there, all your weaknesses start showing themselves. Just like we were talking about on that eye picture, how that lacuna showed up so much brighter. And this is actually a good thing when it's the lymph system being cleaned out of the body. You get to see really what's going on underneath. Sometimes I can't even see adrenal glands because the lymph is so heavy in that area. And of course, when you see lymph that heavy in an area, you start seeing cysts or tumors growing on that tissue. Because the lymph is so saturated, there's nowhere else, there's no movement, there's no flow out of that tissue. And so the tissue swells and then gets little pustulars or cysts or tumors, whatever you wish to call them. There's nothing unusual about that. That would be the natural thought that would happen when that happens if you stop and think about it. So you definitely know you have hip and pain. Now, is this left hip I'm curious about? Because that's left side here. And wherever you have kidneys that are not filtering, you're going to lose the knees, you're going to lose the hips, you're going to lose the shoulder. Anywhere you're using excessive activity that's creating excessive acids are going to excessively deteriorate faster. It's just common sense. So you know when you go on a fast and you start feeling that hip, there's a problem in your hip. And I might add, I mean, if you, in your thinking as you read this case, you might also be thinking maybe there's a link to the thyroid, parathyroid here. Thyroid 1 in the tachycardia. It's possible, whether it's doing it to oxygenate or whether it's doing it because you have inflammation in the thyroid that's sending it into hyperland, or the same thing in pituitary. When you're looking at that, you know that the hip pain and knee pain, all that is acidosis. That's the same thing that's in the heart that's in the hip and knee. But you would have the same thing that's in the knee and the hip as you would the heart, because interstitial fluid is systemic. And that's directly connected to the kidneys and the skin. Where else is it connected to? You see, eliminative organs are essential to life. Elimination of waste is essential to life. So everything comes with this packing with the sewer system. It's just a smart thinking creator. We come along and don't understand that. That's not the creator's problem. It's our problem. So that's just showing you that the hip and thigh pain there is where your weakness is. Another pair where you have a weakness, sweetheart. I was in tears, and it can get real bad. I'd come back and do a grape fast. Get away from the water fast right now. Maybe too intense for you. Come back and do a grape fast. You know, and try to have some chemistry in with your fasting. The only way to lower the pain was to walk. Yeah, you know why? That moves the lymph. And as that acids move around, the pain goes down. But as you get sedentary again, it can roar back. The only laying down or sitting made it unbearable, and I didn't sleep for 2 nights. Well, you got into one of your weaknesses there. Get your eyes, and I'll bet you'll see some deterioration or some inflammation in that hip and thigh. So the next morning I broke the fast and just had grapefruit juice in the morning and for lunch. I think your thinking is good here, sweetheart. I really think you're on point. I think you're going to be aware of those parts of your body that's weak. Even if you get a sore throat, some people they have throat weakness, so they get a sore throat. Some people get to where they can't even talk. That's all just detox. You know, detox is serious business. You know, people might laugh it out, but detox is very serious business. And it's very serious business for Lisa here. and dinner was a whole grapefruit, but I still had the terrible pain. That night at 1 a.m., I remember reading something about a lack of potassium, but that was if a person had a bad diet. You know, I would have taken, you know, an anti-inflammatory like a... we've got an inflammation joints formula. You can take an anti-spasmodic that we have. Having that neuromuscular spasms or the anti-spasmodic in your medicine cabinet would be cool, because really that'll be helpful in pain situations like this. And you feed the nerve as you're doing it, instead of giving an anti-spasmodic that's like a medical type or a pharmaceutical type that doesn't feed the nervous system or build the nervous system as it's taking its action through the anti-spasmodic side. You don't look for a deficiency for this pain, because it has nothing to do with deficiency. It has everything to do with what's going on in your lymph system and in acidosis. Your problem with pericarditis is showing it, or cardiomyopathy. These are serious stuff and needs to be fixed. So I ran to the kitchen and ate a banana, and 30 minutes later the pain was gone and never came back. Isn't that pretty cool? I love that. Well, one of the reasons, sweetheart, is you were eating grapefruit, which is acidic, and so, initially anyway, and so that acid was just interfacing with the acids in your hip and thigh, and that's why the pain was intense. The banana is a far more anti-inflammatory food than grapefruit. Grapefruit is aggressive, like lemons. These are aggressive, and more aggressive than oranges by far. The banana is soothing. And so this is just what happened to you. But I have to say that that's a weakness in that hip and thigh. Hope you're through that and you get on the other side of that. You might consider the parathyroid. And if we consider the thyroid in this case, we might consider to look at her parathyroid just so she can rebuild that hip and thigh area. I mean, the pain can be in the muscles, of course, and everything else, but there's definitely something going on there. Something would be acidosis, and then destruction, just how much destruction of the tissue or genetically weak that is, only the eye would show you. So having a good eye picture. The value of these eye pictures make themselves self-evident when we go over these cases. I went on the internet and found several people having the same exact pain. One person started on the second day of her fast and on the fourth like me. So Dr. Morse, what do you think that was about? I love you too, honey. Well, as I said, I think that when you have high acidosis in the body, and this is for all you Facebook people especially too, you know, someone comes to you and they're just riddled full of inflammation, acidosis in other words. So they have interstitial lymphatic constipation, right? It's all through the gut wall. They're burning bad. They're burning in the joints. They're burning all over, but particularly in the gut, gastric and intestinal area. Sometimes, and like I said, we talked about this on the last video or two, sometimes you can't even handle water. That's why I've got this new tea it's about here. It's called stomach tea. I just call it stomach tea. And it's just a real powerful anti-inflammatory. This tea could also be used in the case where Lisa had the pain in her hip and thigh. It's a good anti-inflammatory without blocking the healing process. That's the beauty of herbs over pharmaceuticals. Not only do they have their actions and indications, they're nutritive and they're just plain healing. And at the same time, they don't block healing. And they assist as anti-inflammatory. I mean, every way you look at herbs are so beautiful. Every one of them. If some of them are strong, use half dosages or down. You know, but for our FDA or any country to be down on herbs, I think the governments need to have a colonic or 2 or 3 or 4 and start appreciating what God put on the planet for the people. We, the people, have to get our world back. Now, so I hope that helps you, honey. But when you're detoxing there and you feel that, like on a lemon or a grapefruit fast, and you feel the pain, get off of that. And you saw that immediately when you shifted to the banana. So fruits are real. Let me tell you something. When you don't think fruits are powerful, think again. They're so much more powerful than vegetables, it's not even funny. And you see that in that case where you're taking grapefruit and lemons and stuff like that. These are powerful foods, and they kick everything up and they get things going. This is why you don't detox on vegetables. You kick it up into the fruits and berries and melon side. It's just a world of difference, and most of you proved that already. I proved it for all these years. But you'll be fine, honey. But I'm telling you what, I think you're doing just right. And you're the case, Lisa, where you have to put your full attention on doing this, because your situation there isn't a fun one and very life-threatening. So you really want to get all this inflammation out of the heart, but it's all through you. Just keep that in mind. Just because you're aware of it in one or two places, now you know that you also had it in the hip and thigh. And if it was on the left side, if it's on the right, you have both kidneys not filtering properly. I hope that helps you. This is Alex, my dear doc. Sorry again for my English. I don't care. You remember, there's no proper English out there, no proper Spanish. You have all types of abbreviated ways. So who cares anyway? You know, a hug speaks a lot of English, doesn't it? I hope you will understand well. Oh, yeah. What do you think about prisons and justice, the economic system, politics, and education? I already know what everybody thinks about health. I don't know, maybe adverse forces are working to stay in a divided world. Well, it's all divided, and it's always divided, because you have this growth of consciousness. And I hate to even use the word growth, because there's a point where sometimes the answers are not always there. You think they are, but they're not always there. Because when you're looking at this is a created universe. All this has already been done. If you've ever had deja vu, you'll see that. You can talk to souls that, particularly you moms out there that are very spiritual, you can talk to the souls that are coming into your newborn, and they'll tell you exactly why they're here and why they picked you. And this is the thing, is that there's already an understanding of what's going through. And I told you once, and I know you're going to laugh, but this was an incredible experience, that one night they took me back to an apple tree, where I was an apple tree, or a peach tree, becoming an apple or a peach tree. I was dying and moving to my next. And there was a rhythm to reincarnation, to where I knew already my next move, and I was so excited because I knew I was going to learn, I was going to grow more, I was going to be able to express more. And so I was excited about that. And I thought, wow, way back even in the plant life, do we see this growth or this movement through different levels of consciousness? Almost like God set up it for itself at endless levels of experiences, and then it just sends itself through these levels of experiences. But it all does it in the context of duality, because it's the only way it can have experience outside of itself. And being the all in the all, it can't create outside of itself. It all has to be within itself. So it has to create movies, the illusion, the TVs. Everything you see is what God created, because it has to do the same thing to have the view. So it's just understanding these things, and sometimes it's difficult because of some of these questions, like you say, of the divided world, and the positive and negative, and the good and the bad. And you say, well, my God, why do we have to go through the bad and the good? And it's just the nature of it. Some people that are really bad enjoy it. They really love it. They get into it. Those that are the worshipers of these satanic things, even though satanic worshiping is a religion, but it's enough to say that you have two forces at play here. Remember, I was telling you about the Star Wars movie, and when the Master was saying, Luke, trust the Force, I'm thinking to myself at the time, which one, Master? Although they're both of the same, comes from the same place. But in time, where you have separation, or the illusion thereof of that, it's hard to say when your attention is totally pulled into this world. And that's all it is. Your attention is what's being pulled from you, the gigantic being of light, which is has been estimated that souls are as bright as 16 billion suns. So I don't know, but let's say that your consciousness is and that spark of God that you are is as bright as 16 billion suns. And you can't even fathom that. You couldn't see that with physical eyes. Matter of fact, I've been to places that's so intense I could hardly see it with my spiritual eye. But there's just so much to looking at this and this divided world and how it has set itself up to experience, and then it trains itself, and then it sets itself out to become a self-creator on top of that. And it's a way, it ever expanding itself. It matures its individual pieces, and then it sends them out to create their own worlds. I mean, when you begin to look at this in some ways, from some of these maps, it's so, you can't even fathom something like this, especially through the mind. That's why it's important that the mind be put into, or thoughts be put into frequencies or individual pieces or individual thoughts, because you have to take that which is all, that which is self-experiencing, that which is, there's just no words to describe that state, and then put it into something that can be experienced individually. So it can divide itself into unlimited pieces, each one fully capable of experiencing life, and it sets up endless levels of life to experience. It's like, oh my God, amazing. I mean, it's just amazing. So real quick, what do you think about prisons? You know, I think we need to change the diet in prisons, and I think we need to get everybody that's on drugs out of prisons, and I think we need to look at what they do in Portugal and some of these countries. They make their parks, city parks, into places where people that want an altered state of consciousness can be helped. You know, you have to understand that all of this is directly related to governments and directly related to how our society runs itself. There's so much unhappiness and depression and so many laws that take people's freedom, so many dictators out there, so many souls that love to control others, that it isn't a happy place. And so people are dying right and left because they don't want to be here. And so they're trying to move around and find the best places on the planet. And I find that regurgitative. It's sad stuff. And I think there's some time we have to get control. It's like this country we're going through in America. We cannot have, and I think Switzerland, you guys learned that before, you can't have this type of government we have here. A president, if anything, Obama's showing the dictator side of himself. Here's a guy that wants to be a dictator, and it's obvious. I mean, you don't run worlds like this. And so we in this country there's war swirling around here. And it's like, oh my God, you see it in every country. The press for freedom is there. So you have the negative forces and these politicians willing to be channels for that. But you also see the positive. The Tea Party, no matter what you think, is full of people like me and us. These people want freedom. These people want the IRS to go to jail before the misapplication of the tax laws. All those things, all what they've done to humans. We're all brothers and sisters. We need to operate with love. So we have to change the way governments are run to where there's no way there can be a monopoly. And this country has to quit making laws. We've got common law is perfect here. And common law is constitutional law, and it's perfect. And it pretty much says you can have fun at anything you want to do as long as you don't hurt someone else. And the minute you hurt someone else, you have to pay for that. That's common stuff. That's the way life is in the first place. That's God. So when you go back and look at the framers, like I said, of the Constitution in America, that was Ben Franklin. All these guys you see they were in some either Masons or they were into Rosicrucians, like Franklin was, and Rosicrucians were out-of-body travelers. I mean, these were the mystic people behind the scenes, and they put together some good documents. So it's that ever-expanding negative, positive, negative, passing the out-breathing, the in-breathing, that sort of thing. In this level, this is... it's possible or a newer level because the human consciousness is not matured very much at all. It's still following, it's still heavily steeped in social consciousness. In other words, souls here revel in fear. And it's sad because some souls are just so fearful it's not even funny. And we just have to bring the God force here and bring the health force, and that's what you guys are doing. And I just can't tell you enough of how this all is important that be done. All right, so anyway, prisons, I think, we have to start feeding and thinking about people's health and more about why people do things, and get into the whole consciousness of our society and things. We have to change everything. Justice. There is no justice anymore out there much. I mean, there's some honest judges, but I've been in front of at least 6, 7 federal judges, and I've been at the appellate court, which is totally corrupt. So now, out of all the federal judges I've been in front of, I've only had 2. One female is hinging on corruption, but she's trying to avoid it. And one guy was so old he didn't know he was being honest. So, I mean, this is just the way it is, and we can't have that. We can't have that anymore. And I've seen lawyers write the bar and just quit because they can't handle the injustice that's going on here. And a lot of it is geared to the IRS and the Tea Party and those people that were, before they were the Tea Party like me, we were challenging the IRS in court in their misapplication of the tax laws. So when I challenge you, when you're making a statement and I challenge your statement, then you just have to prove it, that's all, right? And if you ask the IRS to prove their interpretation of the tax laws, we've got a problem. They can't. That's their problem. And now they got a new guy up there, and he said last night on Fox News that, I hope people trust the way I look and am, and I'm sorry to the Tea Party. Sorry, you're riddled with corruption. You couldn't put a new commissioner, the head of the IRS, that was honest. You couldn't do it. You would not, there's not a president out there that would do it that's been a president before. Because they're so steeped. Imagine a huge part of the income of the IRS is fraudulent. Sad stuff. I've been to seminars put on by ex-IRS agents and revenue officers themselves telling how corrupt it is. I've been to these seminars. I've been to seminars by special agents that came out and said, what is going on here? So, it's a big deal. Economic system, boy, you're asking me a lot of things. Maybe I'll get into that someday. Education, I really think we're screwed up on that one big time. You notice that at 15 years old, and I think Amsterdam looked at that too, but you're at 15 years old right now, you're pretty mature in today's world. You're pretty savvy about things, and I think more due respect needs to be given 15-year-olds and older. More leeway. I think we're all screwed up in the whole educational system because we're teaching academics too aggressively. Because it's all about who can spell better, who can do math better, are we as good as China, as all that, and that's all bullcrap. Then we aren't in a race to see who's better than another. You're on a journey to have fun and enjoy creation, and you want to go to a school that fits what you want to learn. Yes, you have to learn how to communication skills and how to read, write, and add and all that stuff at this level. Sure, you have to do those things. But you also have to learn not to think sometimes. You have to learn where thought is and where academics is in the context of your life and your experience. And if it dominates it, you're going to have less God in your experience, less happiness, and you're going to be chasing rainbows. And that's what's going on in allopathy and many science. They're chasing rainbows. And, oh, look, I'm rebuilding organs and glands. I got a little powder. I rebuild the end of the finger. Although that was pretty cool. That was cool, I'll have to say. I'm into revamping the whole even Montessori education needs to get really improved. As far as I'm concerned, and interject the spiritual side. Start looking at life totally different here, because we're trying to breed academic people, and what we're breeding is stupidity. Because now you have all these academically minded people, you have them fighting over theories. A good one was global warming, that sort of thing. And you see all these theories that are out there. Intellectually, they get to have their seminars and their things, and they spout their intellectualisms. Find that interesting. In the same subject, this is quite existential. I wonder why God, who loves us all and has all that is. Well, it's a lot deeper than that. See, we're not separate from that. We only see ourselves separate from that, my friend. Alex, you only see yourself as separate from God. When you shed your bodies, each body you shed, you'll start seeing that, wait a minute, I'm not separate than God. Matter of fact, as I keep becoming more into the one, I'm merging with myself. And you'll start seeing more and more of something that you thought was totally separate that's not. So the problem is we're taught to pray or meditate, and we're taught that we're separate and we need to travel to, or we need to get knowledge of, or we need to pursue the ultimate, in search of the miraculous, if you will. You already are that. You can search till hell freezes over, so to speak, and you'll never find it. Remember, I've said this before, the seeker of God never finds God, because you're looking external to you, who you are. Only you hold the key to that, and it's only through you you'll find that answer. You won't find it through anyone else. Other people who have had that journey will say, hey, way showers. And that's what I like to call masters, is way showers. And I consider all of you guys way showers. And as you grow in your knowledge and your awareness and your strength, because you're doing that and you're becoming awakened, you'll become more of a way shower. And that's cool stuff, you know. Anyway, let me go on here. Create a world with perversions, lies, suffering, injustice. Yeah, the problem with this, and this is partly, I have two ways of looking at this. I feel sorry for the ultimate, in the sense that to have experience, it has to create duality. So when you have to have separateness, or that which is separate than yourself, or that which has activity or movement or distance to it, you have to have the illusion of separation, since everything is one to begin with. So the illusion of time, matter, energy, and space is there. And we talk a lot about that in spirituality. The appearance of separation. And here it's real strong. Me and the T. In your highest self, there is absolutely no separation of anything. There's no form anymore even. You know, after you leave the mental worlds, I'm going to bring you a chart and go over this. I do it in school, but I think I'll help you guys out a little bit with this. But the mental worlds has three major bodies to it. The id, Carl Jung's wife has said, the id, the etheric, we call it, or the subconscious, as it's called in psychotherapy and things like that. Then we have the pure mind, which Holmes wrote so much about. That's the cosmic consciousness experience. You don't feel like there's separation there, other than you do see you as an individual and that as an individual, but there's a oneness. The mind merges into the universal mind. Even though you're still soul, the mind of all, you have that experience. That's where all little minds come from. All individual minds of all creatures, all beings, come out of that universal mind, and it comes into what's called the causal body. Causal meaning past, present, and future. That's where the Akashic records are. That's where you can see your past and your future journeys and stuff like that in a pseudo concept of time and activity. But it's just like I've said. You look over here, the camera's gone to me. I'm over here. My attention, my awareness is here. If I look back, my awareness, that dies to me now, and you're alive to me. But my higher self doesn't have that. It has a 360-degree awareness. So there is no movement. That's your attention moving. But if you stop looking and focusing and meditate, your attention goes from looking at isolated images to expanding and seeing whole realms. And there's a point where you merge and all the answers and the knowledge is flowing in and out of you and breathing through you. It's no words to describe it. Can't. So in the little self and in creation, there is the duality. And to have duality, you have to have the good and the bad. And from that side, that's sad. But as I said earlier, there's some people that get into the bad and they just love it. So there is a part of God that just loves to be mean, that loves to be nasty, that loves to be evil, that loves that. There's people that do it all the time. And then there are those that woke up out of that. Woke out of being positive, because positive is the opposite side of negative. They are actually the opposites of the same coin, essential to creation, because without that you don't have polarities, you don't have differences, you don't have magnetics, you don't have activity, you don't have isolates, you don't have chemistry, you don't have anything. Everything's one again. And if you study all religions and you start contemplating the right way, you're going to come to the same spot that all the masters have come to, each at a different level, of course, but still. you'll find if you study the journeys that these beings have been on and you start getting into deeper understanding, you will see how the creation is made and how it's mapped out. And then it becomes easier to understand who you really are. And the mystique of God loses itself. Most of life here has been so involved in opposites and separation that everything is you and them, you and God. And everything's external to you. Poor me, I'll never experience that great being God. And yet you're a little piece of mirror of the whole mirror, of the shattered mirror. It's just the way it is. And I often thought, well, you got two ways to look at it, you know. Whereas on the other side, we can see things like beauty, love, justice, and truth. We think the world is evolving, but all this is quite confusing. I know there are eternal world, but why do we incarnate in this physical world? It's all about experiences. That's it. Not about knowledge. What kind of knowledge are you going to get? You get knowledge about creation, which is an illusionary factor. It's just a movie, and you want to get knowledge, and you spend all your time getting all the knowledge of all the universes now, and you're dead, and then you're in another world. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous in one way of looking, but it is the journey. It is activity. It's how God sits back and watches the movie, because it can't get here because it's infinite. So how does an infinite being have a movie to have fun with and watch? It has to take itself and create the performers, create the directors, create all of that, and then put itself through it. But it has to make itself unconscious so it can't remember who it is. And that's why it's an awakening process as instead of a developing. But you don't have to develop. You're already a piece of the all. You have to awaken to that. Well, one way to awaken is quit using the mind and thinking, quit desiring creation, quit wanting things in creation, quit playing so much in creation, and get more to who you are, which is more into the God worlds. And then you'll start to see so much more. Yes, you have the body still, and yes, you have to still take care of them, blah, 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 blah. I hope I didn't get too off on that. I apologize, people, but I hope I didn't get off too far on that for you, because we can really get into some good conversations on that. Phyllis. Hi, Jen. Oh, I have a question for Dr. Morse. What does he think about root canal removal? Well, like I said before, you know, we've done a video on this a couple times there, and I think that the bottom line to root canals, I'm not a holistic dentist thinker, although I've told you before there was a group in New York wanted me to be on the board and everything, and these are some top-notch holistic dentists. But what I see in holistic dentistry around here is very expensive, and they have to follow the same rules everybody else does, and there's nothing non-toxic in dentistry. And I think we just talked about this the other day. The problem with root canals, of course, is you have a tooth that's nothing but cells and fluids and stuff there with some matrix like bone. And so unless you, if you still have a feed to the cells, I guess okay. But the problem is what they, we talked about this before, what they put in a root canal destroyed the cells of the tooth. And then, of course, the tooth was decaying. And then, of course, the reason why you had to have a root canal is never addressed, which is the lymph system in the gums, not filtering out and through the lymph nodes, blah, 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 blah. You see what I mean? And so I don't know where that is. I wouldn't remove one unless it was causing me trouble. You know, the more trauma and the more chemicals in the mouth. I mean, I've lived in dentist chairs, so I can just say that the least amount of toxicity in the mouth, the better. I don't feel that you have to go putting, because, you know, too many dentists are blaming abscesses for cancers or abscesses for liver problems and this and this, and that's just so, you know what, the problem is they don't understand what you guys understand. They don't understand there's a systemic fluid that is 3 times, 4 times bigger than the blood that's supposed to remove sewage out of the body. Sewage is considered cellular waste, cellular poop, and if that isn't happening, you can use the word infection, you can use the word abscess, you can use the word pustula, you can use the word tumors and cysts and boils and pimples, polyps. I watched the documentary, The Beautiful Truth, and then searched out a dentist to remove my mercury fillings. That's important. I still have 2 root canals left, and the last time I had one removed, it took a long time to heal. That's what I'm saying. is that you got to get the lymph system done in the mouth and cleaned up in the body, because that was the problem in the first place, and that's why it took so long to heal. That's why I'd say, if you're not suffering from them, keep detoxing the body before you make a decision on that. All right? I'm told root canals continue to emit poison into our system. Well, it depends what that chemistry is that they filled that. Now, in Europe, I heard they use calcium citrate or some type of calcium product, which wouldn't have the same effect. So it's just the kind of chemistry that they were using. If it is that, and you have that, well, then yes, have them removed. But work on your lymph system big time. I was wondering if under Dr. Morse's plan, if they are actually healed completely and can be left rather. Well, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's about the chemistry they use to pack the canal. That was the problem. Or is the problem, from what I understand. I've had a discussion with my dentist about it too, because he does implants and things like this, and this has been some of my questions too. In terms, I know why, of course, we all know why here, that understands the lymph and acids and stuff like that. But I didn't understand was why did the deterioration of the tooth with the root canal, if there was proper chemistry induced into the canal, which locked that in there. And again, we have this mad scientist syndrome in America. Dear Dr. Morse, what's in the anti-spasmodic that you are talking about? I was diagnosed with stage. What is the anti-spasmodic that you are talking about? It's a formula that I made for spasms, seizures, convulsions. And it works beautifully. It's an anti-spasmodic. And if you're a quad or a paraplegic in a wheelchair, you'll always have a little spasticity, And I've had them to where it actually could throw the client right out of the chair. This one girl had to be strapped in. She was called the Velcro Queen because she had to be so strapped in because her twitches and stuff could throw her out of the chair. And it did Roger, as you saw, and fractured his femur one time. That was the beauty of what you saw take place with his case. And so I use that for seizures, like Dilantin. But instead of using pharmaceuticals, which are toxic to the body, we want natural herbs because we want to strengthen. And then we address why the seizures, whether it's neurotoxicity, whether it's low calcium, low manganese, that sort of thing. We're going to go in, and of course we're going to go into the body. We're going to fix digestion, absorption, utilization. So now your magnesium, your manganese, your calciums, all these can be utilized properly. We strengthen the myelin sheaths. We strengthen the adrenals, of course, with up neurotransmitters. All these things you have to do to get the person out of that trouble. And particularly the detoxification, because you're removing neural toxicities. There's a lot of neurotoxins that we've discussed out there, and including the mercury's in the mouth, and the mercury's in the vaccinations, and all the other crap in the vaccinations. Amazing how we just feel that we must put sewage in the body instead of removing sewage out of the body. I just find that's just such an easy switch to understand, and yet I was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer over 3 years ago. Did only 6 weeks of radiation and mild chemo every 2 weeks, also for 6 weeks. Said goodbye to my oncologist. Thank you, sweetheart. And she gave me a death sentence. The hell with her. Stopped all of it. Felt my soul leaving me. Well, your soul wasn't leaving you. You as soul were leaving your body. Is that better? Then God let me on his healing journey. Oh, yeah, baby. A beautiful journey. I have mucus and cough off and on. Want to strengthen my sweet lung also much as possible. Thank you for all you do, Doc. You are so, thanks, sweetheart. Love you too, honey. Well, let me tell you something. You get aggressive with this. You get on lungs number 2, 3 lung tea. You can breathe it in, of course, as a vapor and then drink it. Now, you shouldn't be over drinking liquids with lung cancer if you still have that, because you don't want the lungs to fill up with fluid. And then you have to have it aspirated until we can stop that. So better to go light on the fluids and just eat the fruits. But I would go on a grape fast, an extended 20, 30, 40-day 3-day great fast with this. Had so much lung cancer in my life in terms of clients with it. You can clean this out of yourself. In stage 4 too, man. You don't have to let that as a death sentence. And so just you got to get that cleaning. I'd also do the neural lymphatics. You'll find they'll be real tight in the upper T-spine area. And so you want to work on those neural lymphatics, very important. And you might want to come on the front and work on these neural lymphatics. And you'll feel them each side of the sternum in between the ribs. And go it down the back and work down the back as well. And get those kidneys filtering. It's a big deal. You got to clean up those bowels too. Everything's interconnected. So get everything cleaned out. But I would definitely put myself on this fast. And then I would definitely jump on the herbs with the fast. And that would, like I said, I would do the 3-lung tea. I'd do the lungs too. But I'd also big time want to get into 2 kidneys, 2 lymphatics, an adrenal 400s, probably 1-3 times a day. Start looking at anything, other glands we need to work on. Get your go out into the GI tract, get aggressive, the GI broom, stomach and bowel number, whatever you need, 1, 2, whatever. Make sure one lymphatic is a capsule and a lymph node, of course, is going to be a tincture. And really get in there and start shaking up the bush, and you'll clean all this out. Now, you're going to have some healing crises if you haven't already. I had it 3 years. And 3 years with an aggressive stage 4, amazing you're still here with us. So God has given you some divine healing of some sort, possible. So you want to go ahead and clean up the mess. It's led you to the door of truth. So we are all here waiting for all of you guys to come in, because we are all here to help you. We got great people on the Facebook. There's a lot of you out there starting your own businesses and practices. Thank you, God. We need as many of you as we can get throughout the world. We're going to turn this around one way or another. We got a lot of help, good help. So you really want to get in and get that cleaned up. That's really, really vital that you get this out. And you're going to have some healing crisis, and it's going to be in the form of mucus. So if you're getting clear yellow mucus, okay, but I need to see the green, the brown, and the black. And generally with lung cancer, you got some black stuff in there you need to get out of there. And you're probably going to see this black tarry stuff come out. But you want to get to the green, because then you really get into the deeper inner canals of the interstitial areas of the lungs. The green and the brown. And like I said, the black. So be prepared to have healing crises that are like bronchitis or pneumonia type symptoms. Expect that. And that'll be a good thing. Let me see. I don't know what this is. It says very important, and this is Melanie. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you. I sure appreciate it. Caring people do exist. So let me see. I don't know if I'm supposed to read this or not, so I'm going to go ahead and look at this. I realized today I did have my hopes quite high for strictureplasty, because I felt really upset when the surgeon said, no, that wouldn't work for me because there are too many strictures and they are too long. I'm going to have to figure out what this is. This is from to Jennifer, and find out what this means. What's going on with you, Melanie? Let me see. I don't feel so hopeless, but I wonder that Dr. Morse's thoughts would be on this. All right, let's see what it is. This medical doctor wants her, what's the problem? Wants me to try more medications. First, I pointed out that they haven't helped except to cause rapid gum recession. Look at that. Her chemical medications she was using for her troubles caused her gums to recede. It caused insomnia and a lot more. I didn't say any of that. He says more surgery would cause short bowel syndrome, and he would have to do resections, not structural plasty. You mean, I meant to do methotrexate injections and then graduate to, oh my God, detoxing when I can't get my bowels to work, and then at least 10 pounds of waste stuck at the time. Oh my God. Well, you could have 10 to 15 pounds of waste build up in the bowel wall and stuff. That's possible. Remember John Wayne. You hear all kinds of stories, 30, 45 pounds. I think he had about 15 pounds of impacted matter in his bowels. Anytime you get too much, that's amazing. But I didn't read his autopsy. Wouldn't it be best to get these very diseased sections out, be able to eliminate waste and continue detoxing, then it would be effective overall and not inflame the rest of the intestine? Okay, I get it. All right, so what this lady's having, I take it, is, and this is the problem I keep telling you guys, we are in serious trouble when it comes to the GI tract. Not only is it the colon, though, it's the small bowel as well. And remember, the lymph is interstitial in the wall, and this is just what we're seeing. Deterioration of the transverse bowel particularly, but it's all through the colon. But mostly you see, some cases it's on the sides in the ascending, descending, but notoriously it's in the transverse and sigmoid rectal. And this is common places for this to be, but it's the lymph system that's chewing down. That's where the polyps hanging down when they do colonoscopies. It's a reflection of what's going on inside. So here's a medical doctor taking off these polyps. Doesn't he or she understand where they're coming from and what they're symbolic of? Yeah, take a look at that. That's what you want to fix. The polyp's easy to go down when you fix interstitial lymphatic constipation. You're just going to pop more polyps. I mean, you've got to go to this concept, this understanding of going to the cause of things is essential. We've got to get to that. You can't just keep ignoring the causative factors there. So I'll say this. I love great surgeons. And I think if you have degenerative bowels to the point that they're so strictured, they're so closed off that you can't poop, and you're going to have to probably have some resections. You know, you can do stent structural redesign and stent stein, but and you can rebuild that. But, you know, it just depends on the case. How advanced are you? Are you pooping at all? And if you're not pooping because of these strictures, then, and there's another thing while I'm thinking about this, I want you to think about, honey, Melanie, and that is, do I have strong connective tissue, or am I getting spastic, ballooning, prolapsing in my gut, which you're going to see that represented probably in the uterus and the bladder, in the veins, in spider veins, varicose veins, and what gland would I be talking about? Oh, you guys are good. Definitely parathyroid gland. You want to look at that as well, because if you cut these areas out and have resections, you've got to take care of the rest because all of it is involved. Genetically weakened area is always worse. So sometimes we have to do resections, especially if you're highly advanced, you're not pooping, and your health is declining fast. What's a good surgeon doing a resection and then rebuilding your body and having a good life from there on? So there are times, guys, where I do recommend surgeons. Don't be mad at me, but you have to. There are cases where there is no alternative. You've just got to do that. And trying to rebuild something fast enough to keep your life in place might not be possible. That nature's good, really good, but also sometimes slower than what one might need in a stat emergency. So if you've got a good surgeon, I'm on his side that resections are probably going to be your best way to do this. Again, when you go in and you have these surgeries, you have to think about scar tissue and adhesions. And you also have to think about, when it comes to strictures and prolapses and ballooning and things like this, parathyroid problems. The inability to weaken connective tissue, along with genetics. But I'm telling you, Melanie is just one of millions and millions and millions with chronic bowels. And a lot of people don't realize their state of bowels and what they really are in. So we are seriously in trouble with kidneys and GI tracts and, of course, glands. And that's our main focus, isn't it? Absolutely. And there's a reason, because that's where most people are in trouble. And that's reflective in all parts of the body, because these are your main tissues that make everything else good. So it just stands to reason that we would focus there, doesn't it? So that's what I would do. I would definitely have resections. If you have, I'd get my eyes first of all, honey. Take a look at these areas they're talking about. Obviously, they're strictures. Take a look at the tissue around that stricture, how good it is. And if you're seeing really black areas around that area, that's decay, might want to have that area cut out and then rebuild the rest of your body up real good. Fix the causative problems and you'll be good the rest of your life. Sometimes you have to get, and because they brought us this way, and because of the man and his deciding that diets were okay no matter what we eat like billy goats, we're in trouble for that. So we have to use medical intervention sometimes. There's nothing wrong with medical doctors. They're just aligned themselves with the philosophy that's a killing philosophy. They've aligned themselves with the philosophy that's worthless. But when it comes to surgery, that's a whole different philosophy. That's just repairing and rebuilding, as much as you can rebuilding. But I mean, that's a whole different subject matter. That's surgery and ER work is night and day from general health issues. You're going to need these two if you don't fix these problems. You're going to need them if you use pharmaceuticals to treat yourself. You're going to eventually need an ER and eventually need a surgeon, probably. Hi, Dr. Morse. I love what you do and deeply appreciate. Oh, thanks, man. Who is this? Tereza I. Thank you. I take your work very seriously. I hope so, because I try to have fun, but it is serious stuff. You people facing resections, people facing lung cancer and dying, and people facing, it's so serious, it's not even funny. You guys are so important. I'm not just patting you on the back and patronizing you. I'm telling you the truth, because this is just what we have to have in this world. And somebody's got to stand tall and strong, and a bunch of us need to do it. One's not enough. Two's not enough. 1,000's not enough. Millions of us is. I have submitted the health questionnaire and picture in my eyes. I was also quite impatient and ordered some herbs from you. I have an AVM in my brain. Now listen to this. That's not good. AVM. She's got an abnormality that when you look at your veins and arteries, you've got pipes that run all through your body, bringing goodies to cells and taking sewage away from cells. The pipes that take food to cells we generally call the vascular system or the blood vessels, and they're divided up into two systems, basically. You have your arterial supply, which is your oxygenated supply, and then you have your venous supply, bringing back the used up oxygen. You're bringing up the blood that's inferior now, with the oxygen being burned out of it a lot. It's picked up some crap just in general ways, although the spleen is supposed to halfway clean this, and the kidneys a little bit, but the spleen more so, in cleaning this blood for you by the time it comes back up to the right atrium. So by the time all this is passing through, you're sending out oxygenated and energized blood and bringing in used, so to speak, blood, and then it gets reconstituted and you're going around and around and around. In between those two are capillaries, little bitty things that you can see as they spread out because they have to get to the cells. So you have capillaries, you have your main pipes, and then you have your little pipes hooked to every place, just like a house. You have your main sewer pipe, and then you have individual pipes going to each house. Then you have the lymphatic pipes, the lymph vessels. And those are intertwined in those as well. And you have lymph capillaries as well, doing the same thing, but picking up sewage instead of delivering oxygenated blood and so forth. And why would you have lymphatic capillaries and lymph vessels that are hooked to the lymph nodes and then to the kidneys and skin? Why would the body dump sewage into the venous system, which is the nutritive kitchen of the body, when it has a sewer system right there to do it? I always thought that was asinine in people thinking, in medical thinking. The lack of understanding of the great lymphatic system is not acceptable in a health modality, because that leaves them totally out of the loop. And then they become radical. And that's what's happened to the AMA. They're a radical group of people. And those that control this, like the Rockefellers and stuff, they love to use dialectics in a way that makes you assume things that are not true. And you have to be careful. You always listen to lawyers and judges and everything else because everybody says things that are not true, and they use half-truths to set things in there for you, and you make assumptions out of these. Look at every word and how they say them. Look at even how Obama and some of these people talk, what they're not saying. You look as much as what they're not saying as how they're saying what they're saying. You have to listen to how everything is structured, how words are structured. You have to listen that close because this is a game now. Look at, we were talking about this in one video about subliminal advertising. The art of using words and pictures in disguises and everywhere else to get into the subconscious to strike a need, an emotional need, and then it sells product. Jesus criminy. This is where we're at, though. This AVM, anyway, she doesn't have the capillaries. She has abnormal connection from the venous to the arterial to the venous without the little capillaries. I find that interesting as hell. And it is, it is known. And so she has ganglias that are mutated from that. Now, in vascular ways, and the same way with nerve ways, and we talked about this before, that the body can grow new vascular pathways, new capillaries, and new lymph vessels, and new nerve pathways. The body will move and spread out to feed the cells. So she gets, I'm going to read this a little more. I have an AVM in my brain, which has been there probably since my birth. I just had a scary bleed at the end of August. Now, this is the thing is that she can get bleeds, headaches, everything else, and this is scary stuff. But what I would do is I'd definitely probably go on a program of detoxification, upper circulation, things like that, because what I want to do is I want to start strengthening. I want to start reaching into cells and pulling out higher memory patterns. And the only way I'm going to do that is to bring energy, which is consciousness, which is intelligence. Remember quantum physics. I'm going to bring energy. I'm going to bring conscious plants. I'm going to bring conscious plants into, or fruits into the body, or herbs into the body, that can go and effectively bring out better memories out of those cells, higher memories, because it's got a blueprint there, and I can reach toward that blueprint, and I can awaken that cell to its higher capabilities. And so I can create all kinds of new interactions and actions in the body from the cells that exist here by bringing conscious, aware chemistry and magnetics into the body. Get where we're going? Because there's nothing not awake on this planet. It's all in the body of God. So it all has the potential and all has some degree of energetic awareness. So you have to do stuff like, so I would start the detox right on, because why do you get mutation in the body? What mutates cells and augmenting design? And you're going to come back to the word acids again, and you're going to come back to the lymph system again, where you get the mutation or the shutdown or the decay of that cell, or the augmentation of chromosomes and DNA. It doesn't matter. What side of the chemistry is more notorious for that? And it's going to be the acid side almost always. That's why it's so important to focus on that lymphatic system each and every time. Now, she has a blood problem, but we need to get that lymph system involved and cleaned as well, especially in the head area, because it could continue to augment her problem. At the same time, we're hoping to get new vascular capillaries growing up there to fill the spaces these cells can get fed, so she doesn't have little infarctions all over the friggin' place. Infarction is when you don't get blood to a cell. That's what you call a myocardial infarction. That's a heart attack. And it's just, you have to be careful. You've got to get this oxygenated blood to cells. And this is why she needs to spawn new capillary growth there and strengthen the walls there. So I would definitely be looking at the parathyroid gland. I'd be looking at the adrenals and the kidneys to filter the lymph. I'd be looking at her eyes, seeing what her lymph looks like in her head, trying to drain the lymph out of the head, trying to aspire strengthening of vascular walls, which is flavonoids, which is your fruits and berries. It's your upper circulation and your lower circulation formulas to strengthen, to get more new capillary pathways. These are the things that I would be working towards. Now, she has to have certain, let me read on. She just had a scary bleed at the end of August and was flown to hospital with special neurosurgery department. Lucky I had no insurance, so luckily I had no insurance, so they didn't do any processes or operations on me. The plan is an open brain surgery, though. Yeah, I figured that. The chance it was going to bleed again just got higher with the bleed. I know it. That's why the bleeding formula, but also, because that'll stop internal bleeding, but also, let me say this, you want to look at that parathyroid to strengthen connective tissue. That'll strengthen the vascular walls. By getting better circulatory herbs going in there will inspire the vascular system to grow new vascular pathways, capillaries. Seen it. So I also see new neural pathways around quads that have been plated up so bad. I've seen whole new neural pathways develop from that. Incredible stuff. But we're talking about God, and we're talking about our incredible creation, even though it is positive and negative. I have no limit functions and slowly return into my old body fitness again. I do lots of yoga work and with an osteopath and get acupuncture. I have been vegetarian since my age of 17. Good for you. I can just tell you, good for you with this problem. And vegan since 28. Yeah. I try to eat as much living foods as possible. I meditate almost every day. This is a good woman. My question is it possible to heal something I was born with by detoxification, diet, and herbs? Teresa. Well, that's what I think, honey. That's what my goal would be. If you have to end up with surgery, though, let me say this. The same thing as we talked about in the last client or two. Scar tissue, adhesions, things like this, where you're going into an already inflamed area. Because there's no way, even if you have a mutation from genetics, the lymph system is always involved in that mutation. Always. So even though we're now in the vascular in the kitchen, we still have to think sewage. But we can do a lot to the kitchen too. And that is make the vascular walls stronger. We can inspire new capillary growth. We can do things like that, which is pretty cool. I'm going to have to go here, daggone it. But I wanted to go over those. Oh man, I got so many here. Man, I love it. Oop. Tons of sulfur on my eyes. Started the GI Brew 15 days ago, and today I realized my eye's different. I didn't pay too much attention until people started noticing the color change. Oh yeah, I read this before. Oh, this is Rozana. Absolutely. This is pretty cool. You guys are proving truth. Proving truth. And hopefully that's all we speak. Because if I say something that's wrong and I find out, I'll admit it to you guys. Because I don't care. I have no ego. I don't care if I'm wrong. But I don't like to be. I like to know as much as I can about something. If I don't know enough, I'll let you know about that. But a lot of this I've had so much experience with, it's just second nature for me. I haven't talked to you in a long time, Organicsuperman. How are you? Hey guys, good to talk to you. I know a lot of you are on Facebook and I don't get myself over there much. Dr. Morse, I really need help with post-viral fatigue. Are there any ways to boost my immune system? My neutrophils are 1.8 and total white WBCs or white blood cells are 3.8. I feel like I'm just staying at this level and not improving. I don't feel good. Okay, so here's the thing. Organicsuperman, send me a picture of your eyes and put Organicsuperman on it for me so I can take a look at them. If I have them here already, go ahead and put my attention toward that so I can take a look at that and see what you look like deeper, lymphatically speaking. But let's look at white blood cells for a minute. White blood cells, you tend to look to the bone marrow and also to the spleen. So I would be looking to my bone marrow and I'd be looking to my spleen. So I'd probably do the spleen formula for a month or two and I would get into our bone marrow formula and get my bone marrow strengthened up. At the same time, I'm looking at my lymph system. Because if I'm looking at the suppression of, how's your platelets? Because when you look at white blood cells, you want to think of platelets too, because they're almost twins in some ways, particularly of the tissues involved. So when you think of platelets, that's how your blood clots. White blood cells are lymphocytes. So you're looking at immune cells, which become other immune cells. Lymphocytes or leukocytes become all your cells. So they travel to the thymus and become T cells. Most are known to B cells, but you got neutrophils, eosinophils. It goes on and on and on. Each immune cell is doing different things. I think the real issue here, man, is Get up the bone marrow, go on some bone marrow herbs for a little while, go on this, clean the spleen out, but dig in, make sure your liver's cleaned up, and really just start cleaning out the body, and your white blood cells should come right on up with that. 3.8 is not that low, but it's still lower than I'd like to see. Try to get them up to about 5. See what your platelets are running. You want over 200,000 platelets. What else? Neutrophils, they'll come. You'll balance all that out. Clean your lymph nodes out and all that. And like I said, clean the spleen, clean that, and you'll do well. And give me your eyes so I can see what else is going on there. You might check your blood pressure, get into the adrenal glands, Organicsuperman if you don't feel well. Let me know what's all going on there, because maybe you got bowels, maybe you have malabsorption. I mean, you have a whole host of things to look at here. Dig in deeper there, and let's take a look at that. But I'd be going after my bone marrow, I'd be cleaning my spleen, that sort of thing, and looking at the white blood cells. Good to talk to you, Mom. Oh, I got so many. Here's a short one. Sam, what about aloe vera for inside the vagina to heal cool, and even as a sexual lubricant? If you could. The trouble with the aloe is it has a tendency for drying. Now you have to be careful using it as a lubricant, because it has a drying ability to it, so you want to be careful with that. But you could still use it into the vaginal area for any type of inflammation or acidosis. Again, douching with the Heal-All tea, I highly recommend you ladies do that, because spend a couple of weeks every night douche, and you'll be amazed. But remember this: most of these atypical cells and all these problems are lymphatically involved. And that's the only way you can break down a cell. The blood is always base, so you're not going to break down a cell with blood unless it's ischemic or withdrawn infarction, as we were talking about. So I would, but if you could use an aloe vera that wasn't drying so much, you could try it and see. I don't know. It is tend to be a little drying. You don't want to dry out that area. But and if that area is dry, if the lady has a dry vaginal area, that would be low estrogen. And I would be going to the adrenal glands for that. And I would probably be using a little black cohosh. As a rule, I don't, because it's estrogenic. But if you have vaginal dryness, I use black cohosh to bring a little more estrogen to the picture, or get the adrenals producing just a little more estrogen. P.S. Only the natural plant alone, not skin products. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. No, I know what you were talking about. And you can scrape that stuff. I do that and eat it a lot. I have lots of aloe vera all over my place. So yeah, you could do that. But I would just be real careful with it as a lubricant. It might have a drying factor. If you had a lot of inflammation, a lot of acid burning from interstitial out, yeah, you could use the aloe vera, the Heal-All tea. But I tell you, you can also use marshmallow root tea, slippery elm tea, mullein tea. These are healing, anti-inflammatory, good for the mucosa, that sort of thing. Okay. Let's see, my name is Dara, and I have a question for you. Before I ask, may I just say that the information in your videos has blown my mind. Oh, thanks, sweetheart. Could you explain why joints like elbows become sticky, then locked, no full extension in conditions such as RA? One word, and one word only, sweetheart. What is it? I think I'm going to agree. Acids. Acids, that's the only word. Think of a welding machine, welding, and how welders weld metals together. Think of that same thing when a lady has to have a hysterectomy and the surgeon finds the uterus welded to the colon. Endometriosis, what causes that? Acids. Acids weld everything. They burn, lock, weld, dehydrate, stiffen, tight, lock, augmentate, all of that. This is all good question, and it's all about acidosis, sweetheart. All about acidosis, and that's exactly what RA, any of the arthritises are that way. Except RA just tends to have a little popper to it. It's called sulfur and uric acid. Could you also explain the way you work your way out of this? Yeah, well, as I have been. All these videos, sweetheart, are talking about that. How do you work yourself out of that trouble. You're going to work yourself out of this problem with clicky joints. Matter of fact, now let me touch real quick on clicky joints. What gland are we going to look at if you start getting clicky joints? Damn, you guys are good. Yes, the parathyroid gland. Absolutely. So you want to look at that because you want to be utilizing. You don't want to take calcium or you're going to click a lot more. This time you could inspire a lot heavier arthritis. So you don't want to take calcium. You want to fix your utilization of it. And that is the parathyroid gland. And pick the thyroid while you're doing it. Definitely want to do that. But if you don't get the lymph moving, clicky, lock, and you're done. You know, this is what we're showing you on all these people, MS and all these other people. You can literally get all these people that are frozen. You're welded everything together. That's extreme acidosis, not alkalosis, acidosis. And this is how you do. You unwind that. You've got to get your kidneys and your adrenals up, because if you can't get, and we've said this over and over, if you can't get filtration out of your kidneys, you're certainly not going to be able to get these acids out of your body. That's the problem in the first place. So if we don't get filtration, we don't get remedy. And the sad thing is that it's taking some people longer than it should to get filtration. So, you know, it's all we're all learning. I'm learning with you guys. You guys, we're all learning together because we got this much knowledge. Okay, I've said all these years we're starting from a good position, but we got so many questions that we could that we need answered. But you know what? Even if you couldn't, you simply tear it up. You detox your body. That's how you get rid of these problems. I don't care how frozen you are. You can get frozen pretty stiff, and you have to unfreeze yourself. And it's called hydration, but proper interstitial hydration. Absolutely. Digging deep, using the herbal formulas, you hit it right on the head, sweetheart. Right on the head. You guys are so good, but I got to run, so to speak. I appreciate you all so much. The importance of everything that you guys are asking and going through. I remember there was some guy here that asked something to me, and I wanted to read this. Oh, I want to read this one real quick. God, there's so many things like, oh, guys, you're driving me nuts. And Paul, I love you, Paul, and I want to tell you, Paul, I've got one eye open to that. And when I feel that questions are being redundantly asked, and I feel that impression, I'm going to, say something about it. But Paul, I love you too, man. I appreciate that. Paul is, saying that some people are probably, trying to be a smart ass and do, and the way they ask questions and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, there's all kinds out there, Paul, and we live in a world like that. But I still say we've got one of the best groups out there because we can actually heal people. It's one thing to go out and have your juices and your drinks and have your raw foods. That's a given for me. I mean, I've been doing that 43 years, and there's some people who've been doing it a little longer than I have. Of course, a lot of those are dead now, but still, you still have a lot of people who've been doing it back in the 50s and stuff. So you've had a lot of people on raw and juicing. Okay, that's a given at this level. In our conversation, that's a given. And it's a given in my world that the fruits and the berries are the highest order of chemistry and magnetics. And as a matter of fact, factual. Now, the difference is that you guys know how to use botanicals and the diet to go into people that are advanced cases, near death, and pull them away from that. People that have been mutated, and you can straighten them out again. That's another world and another level in its own. That's why I looked at Dan's site, and he's got 140 some subscribers the other day, and I'm, my God, Dan. We've only got 11,000, and I'm saying, but we are a special group. We have the power of how to heal and the awareness of that, but the awareness to have God consciousness too. So you don't expect people to come running to us. It'd be nice because we do need to change this planet, but we're working our best. And I'm mighty proud of each and every one of you guys. You're just beautiful people, and I just love that. We're needed. All of us are needed. And it's just because you're going to go on and you're going to have your experiences, and souls are going to keep coming on and going through the journeys. And we're here to make that journey up a little bit. As one question was, how come there's just so much negativity and evilness and everything else? And again, we're the checkers for that. We're the light checkers that checks the darkness. And you want to be that. And that's why I sign things and I always say, be the light, be love. Because everybody else is being the negative, backbiting, gossiping, tearing everybody down. When someone tears somebody down, I say, well, I kind of like them. You know, we have to come out with a positive side. So watch yourself. When you come out with something negative, stop that, throw the mind over, and fill it with love. Yeah. So that's the order of the day. Go have fun, be in the now, and walk your day with love and light. When you see someone, surround them with light and the love of God. That is the way of a true spiritual guide and healer. Love you all. Talk to you soon. Got to run. Hope this is helpful. And gosh, we got so much to go over, but love you all. Thank you so much for taking your precious time and listening to these and helping yourselves. You'll not regret it ever, I promise you. Bye-bye.